Now, 3 Palestinians have been killed and several wounded during a raid by Israeli forces in the city of Nablus. The Israeli army claimed 2 of the victims were responsible for last month's drive-by shooting in the Jordan Valley, which killed 3 Israeli settlers, a British-Israeli mother and her 2 daughters. Israel's security service said all 3 of the Palestinians killed were members of Hamas. Hamas called the men heroes.
Another crime committed by the Israeli occupation army is the killing of 3 Palestinians and fighters of Al-Qassam brigades in Nablus. They are the ones who heroically carried out the killing in the Jordan Valley as a response to the incidents that took place in the Al-Aqsa Mosque during the month of Ramadan and the frequent attacks on worshippers. This crime will not stop the resistance, and certainly the occupation will pay the price for its crimes against our people and for the assassination today.
Well, our special correspondent Karl Bostic has been monitoring developments from our London studios, and he joins me now for more. Good to see you, Karl. Just tell us more about this latest raid and the Palestinians who were killed.
Charles, it's very interesting. As you just heard from the comments by that spokesman from Hamas saying that, this is kind of a crime and it was delusional that Israelis think this will stop, the resistance. It's because these are the rules of the game, Charles, unfortunately on the ground, tragically. Any attack on an Israeli will be met by a certain response from Palestinians, especially militants. Any attack on a Palestinian, they will consider to be martyrs, and that will be responded by another attack. So what happened was, as you rightly said, Charles, this transpired about a month ago. In fact, it was April 7th, when 3 women, members of a family living in the West Bank in Efrat, they were on the road, and their car was forced off the road, and they were shot at. 3 women, 2 sisters, aged 15 and 20. The mother died from wounds in the hospital. The way things go, Charles, is that no attack goes unpunished. And that's what exactly happened here this morning in Nablus, Charles. You had a pre-dawn raid on an apartment in Nablus. Nablus and Jenin being one of really the 2 military, what they consider to be hotspots of where militant groups have consolidated their resources. And that's what happened this morning. The problem is also, you have a situation of so many internal and external pressures with the Israeli government, Charles, that many people are suggesting that it's no surprise if violence could escalate, or we could even be going into a third intifada, which is an uprising, which would be widespread across the West Bank. So this is not over yet, Charles.
And we saw tensions, Karl, notch up this week in response to the death of that Palestinian prisoner in Israeli custody who died after a lengthy hunger strike. And that caused significant anger amongst Palestinians, didn't it?
Charles, that's right. You're talking about Hadar Adnan. He was 44 years old. He was a militant. He was a member of the Islamic Brigade that's Gaza-based, and he was known for advocating the use of hunger strikes to exact changes in prison conditions. And he had been on hunger strike for 87 days. He was last visited, he was weighing less than 125 pounds, Charles. This was his 6th hunger strike, and unfortunately, Charles, it was his 6th. It was a fatal hunger. It was a fatal one. And what's really interesting is this, Charles, is that that's why everything is so tense. Because even though he was found unconscious in a cell because he refused medical treatment, because he was against administrative detention, where you can be arrested without being charged, without having a trial. He was protesting those kinds of realities of life under Israeli rule in Palestine. His body, Charles, has still yet to be returned to his family, because people know that return of that body will then, that funeral would trigger yet even more protests and perhaps, unfortunately, even more violence.
And Karl, this is coming in the context, I mean, beyond the sort of spiraling violence that you've been talking about. I mean, this is coming in the context of some pretty big protests, continuing protests inside Israel against those proposed judicial reforms. I'm wondering if all that could add together with this Palestinian anger and sort of create yet more trouble for the Israeli right-wing government.
Charles, the short answer is yes, because you have a situation that really is a tinderbox because of the pressures being faced by the Israeli government, both internally and externally. Not only is it, Palestinian attacks on individual settlers, such as the one that happened back in April, which is why you had the retaliatory attack response this morning, or not only is it Israelis attacking Palestinians in the West Bank. Not only is it, rocket strikes happening from Gaza or from Lebanon, you also have the most extreme hard right government ever in Israel's history since its founding in 1948, where they're saying that, for example, Charles, what happened this morning in terms of the retaliatory response from killing these 2 or 3 people responsible for that attack back in April, they're saying that's not enough. They're saying you need to cut off the head of the snake. You need to kill, if not assassinate, the leaders of Hamas. And that's why you have those far-right members of the government, because this is a very, very fragile coalition government, Charles, that Benjamin Netanyahu controls. It's only by 4 votes. And if they decide to pull out, the government collapses. And what they want to see basically a crackdown on all Palestinians. They want to expand settlements. Already more than 200 in the West Bank, 500,000 Israelis in disputed territories, and they want to increase that. And if they have to, they will do more, and they'll go after the leaders and kill them. That's why you have this standoff. And when his bodies return, Hadar Adnan, no one knows what could happen. It could be another spiral. That's why many are saying that it's inevitable. If not more violence, maybe even a 3rd intifada.
Very interesting indeed, and a very thorough analysis as always. Karl, thank you very much indeed. Karl Bostic, our special correspondent, talking to me there from our studios in London.